It's no secret that Shanks is a powerhouse in the world of One Piece, and every new arc and reveal just seems to solidify that. However, this is not the same One Piece that we used to watch 2 decades ago when Luffy was just a stretchy brat, and the deadliest enemies to the crew were fish people and calorically dense pirates who peaked in high school. The characters have gotten stronger, the dangers have grown more terrifying, and the world is changing as One Piece enters its final saga. The development has sparked countless debates online whether Shanks is still the overpowered badass he once was against some of the newer antagonists like, say, for example, the legendary Gorosei. It's a hard debate since the Gorosei have not showcased too many of their abilities as of yet. But when has that ever stopped me from making a video and going on unhinged rants, right? So screw it, let's dive in. For those of you who are not up to speed yet, but are still watching this to spoil themselves, here is a quick look at the absolute powerhouse that is Big Daddy Shanks. For starters, he's one of the 4 emperors, which already puts him at the top of the One Piece hierarchy alongside legends such as Mihawk, Blackbeard, and Old Whitebeard. In combat, Shanks is able to wield a blade like no other, constantly being framed as Mihawk's rival and duel buddy in different arcs, and his crew's loyalty and respect for him speaks volumes. Don't get me started on his Haki though. Shanks is practically regarded as the ceiling of power when it comes to Haki, both from what we've seen when he's on screen and how other characters speak of him. With all that influence, power, and skill, he is sure to give any opponent hell. But is it truly enough to overpower the Gorosei? We'll get to my schizophrenic make-believe scenarios later in this video. For now, let's take a look at what we currently know about the Gorosei. For starters, they rule the world and only answer to the enigmatic King Imu, being the highest reachable authority in the world government. They are ranked way above admirals, fleet admirals, and even have the respect of the celestial dragons. It has been revealed that all 5 of the Gorosei possess Mythical Zoan Devil Fruit transformations, which are popularly regarded as overpowered devil fruits on the same level as Kaido's or Sengoku's. Okay, so the old farts have several years of experience on Shanks, and they can turn into mythical creatures from folklore. Is that truly enough to best the red-haired demon? Absolutely not. But the Gorosei possess one trump card that makes this debate harder. That is the 5 elders' seemingly unlimited regeneration abilities that likely make them some degree of immortal. The plot thickens like my gravy. Now, let's take a structured look at what both sides have to offer, starting with Haki. As I said earlier, Shanks is the epitome of Haki control in the series, possessing the most refined Conqueror's Haki with enough aura to stop Green Bull and Yonko-level threats in their tracks from miles away. Meanwhile, the Gorosei members like Saturn likely possess strong Conqueror's Haki too, with how they can intimidate and immobilize enemies with their aura. But we have yet to see too much of it in action. Lore-wise, the Gorosei are rumored to have a frightening presence. However, the Gorosei are no match for Shanks when it comes to observation Haki, because the red-haired Giga Chad has bypassed other users' future sight, while the 5 ancient farts have yet to display any cool counters of the sort, and it is unlikely. When it comes to armament Haki, Shanks is fortified enough to go head-to-head against Whitebeard and even managed to intercept Akainu's devastating magma fist with his blade, which implies that he's an armament Haki maestro on the battlefield. The Gorosei likely possess armament Haki of similar caliber, so it would eventually boil down to the better user and tactician. Though I'd like to remind you all that Haki is all Shanks relies on. It is his bread and butter on the treacherous waters, which is why he is so beastly and refined. Since he cannot rely on gimmicks and raw output like devil fruits, he most likely has better mastery of his Haki. As much as I want to boof boatloads of copium, we can't beat around the bush and finish this comparison without regarding the devil fruit and transformation advantage that the Gorosei possess. All 5 of the elders have the ability to carry out partial or complete mythical transformations that greatly boost all of their base attributes like strength, speed, and stamina. The transformations are all rooted in Japanese folklore and include a bull spider hybrid, a giant sandworm, a skeletal horse, a 4-tusked boar, and a demonic bird snake hybrid. All of this gives the Gorosei an edge that Shanks simply cannot replicate. If even one of these Zoan transformations happens to be untouchable by conventional means, Shanks would have no choice but to rely on his Haki, which may or may not be strong enough against the elders. Now that the elephant in the room has been addressed, let's take a look at... Wait, What? There's another elephant? Oh, fine. I'll talk about the plot regeneration first before you weebs start crying in the comments. This is another section where no ungodly amount of cope can negate the facts. Yeah, that's right. While mythical Zoans already have insane auto-regeneration, as seen with Seraphim and Impel Down beasts, the Gorosei have an innate and absurd healing ability that makes them seemingly immortal. Saturn has walked off point-blank explosions and even decapitation, regenerating with no apparent effort. The other Gorosei members have similar healing abilities that allow them to tank lethal damage without having to worry about consequences. This probably makes them the hardest creatures to permanently get rid of the universe, maybe aside from King Emu himself. On the other hand, Shanks has been hardened by years of battles and has developed elite durability. I mean, the show opens with him losing his arm without so much as flinching. So what did you expect? Throughout One Piece, Shanks clashes with terrifying forces like Kaido and Whitebeard, while constantly being a thorn in the military side, which goes to show how tough he is in a fight. However, Shanks does not have regenerative abilities, which puts him at a severe disadvantage when pitted against semi-immortal monsters. In a prolonged battle, Shanks would have to utilize his other feats in order to counter the constant healing abilities of the Gorosei. Now, don't go underestimating Big Daddy Shanks just yet, because he is a Chad with an immense aura and a big brain to back it up with. Not only is he a master strategist who ends wars and dances with major political events, but he trained directly under the legendary Gold D. Rogers crew, making him the best of the best when it comes to earning his keep and surviving at sea. It goes without saying that he would have absorbed some top-tier combat doctrine into his beautiful noggin. However, the Gorosei are literally in charge of the global affairs and have been alive for centuries, granting them insane amounts of historical knowledge. They would be familiar with ancient powers, Joy Boy, and even King Emu's enemies. This is a tough section, so let's call it a tie with both sides being matched equally. On a macro level, the Gorosei solo simply by association with how long they have been around and how familiar they are with the global system. But if we're talking from a tactical combat point of view, Shanks excels due to his goated strategies and adaptability. Now let's get into the spaghetti and meat the balls of this entire debate. How much of the aforementioned points are rooted in canon on-screen events, and how much of it is hearsay and speculation? Well, believe it or not, everything in this video has either been a directly showcased feat or a scaling feat that is canon and backed by other characters and lore implications. When it comes to Shanks, he is a certified badass who ended Kid's career with one shot, scared off Green Bull as naturally as scratching his bum, and clashed with Whitebeard. Moreover, he was able to match Mihawk in combat and was single-handedly responsible for stopping the Marineford Summit War. On the other hand, the Gorosei have not had that much time in the spotlight, so they have been limited direct feats. Most of what we know is because of Saturn's display of regeneration and anticipated Conqueror's Haki, which is strong enough to paralyze enemies in their tracks. However, it still feels like very restricted knowledge as of yet. If we were to talk about scaling within the universe, Shanks is regarded as an equal or a beast surpassing even the top tier monsters. Even someone as broken as Kaido acknowledged Shanks as being among the top 5 strongest list of legends. Meanwhile, the Gorosei hold mind-boggling scaling potential, often regarded by fan theorists as a grade far above admirals, and even on par with the gods and demons of the universe. While there is a lack of on-screen displays, this needs to be taken into account. So, what does all of this boil down to? Is Shanks stronger than the Gorosei, or has he finally met his match in the series? Well, it depends. Is Shanks fighting the 5 elders one-on-one, or are they ganging up on him? After considering both of the scenarios, the verdict is in, and Shanks is absolutely stronger than the Gorosei. Not only is he a powerhouse who outclasses each of the elders in burst potential, refined Haki, and kill shot potential, but he also doesn't need to worry about the endless regeneration of the Gorosei. If it were a pure endurance fight, sure, Shanks would eventually break down and exhaust himself, but from all we have seen, he only needs an opening, not a marathon. In a gang fight, the planetary relics would certainly pose a great threat after Oda hyped them up so much as soon as the Final Saga of One Piece started. That danger would only be multiplied if all of them decided to go ham instead of taking turns trying to get a clean hit in on Shanks. However, if there is anyone who can find a way to deal with the 5 governing figures and Imu's underlings, it is Shanks. To back up my stance, consider the fact that the Gorosei have scars on their body. Even if they are semi-immortal, this implies that they can get hurt permanently without regenerating. And who better to find and exploit such a weakness than the master combatant Shanks? The red-haired demon is a master of offense, defense, and pure war tactics. He would surely end the fight before it ever became a battle of endurance. That wraps up today's video analyzing whether Shanks is stronger than the Gorosei. Take everything in the video with a grain of salt and comment down below who you think is getting bodied with no mercy. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you're a fellow Shanks fanboy. If not, don't blame me if you get jumped the next time you're out getting McDonald's.